Mauna vrata shuta tapodhyayana sudharma Vakya raho japasamadaya apavargya Praya param purushate tvajitendriyanam Varta bhavantyanudu vatra tudambikanam. O Supreme Personality of Godhead, there are 10 prescribed methods on the path to liberation. To remain silent, not to speak to anyone, to observe vows, to amass all kinds of Vedic knowledge, to undergo austerities, to study the Vedas and other Vedic literatures, to execute the duties of Varnashrama Dharma, to explain the Shastras, to stay in a solitary place, to chant mantras silently, and to be absorbed in trance. These different methods for liberation are generally only a professional practice and means of livelihood for those who have not conquered their senses. Because such persons are falsely proud, these procedures may not be successful. Purport. As stated in Srimad Bhagavatam, Kechit Kevalaya Bhaktya Vasudeva Parayanaha Agam Dhunvanti Kartsnina Niharam Iva Bhaskara. Only a rare person who has adopted complete unalloyed devotional service to Krishna can uproot the weeds of sinful actions with no possibility that they will revive. He can do this simply by discharging devotional service, just as the sun can immediately dissipate fog by its rays. The real purpose of human life is to attain liberation from material entanglement. Such liberation may be achieved by many methods. Tapasa brahmacharyena shamena cha ramena cha. But all of them more or less depend on tapasya, austerity, which begins with celibacy. Shukadeva Goswami says that those who are Vasudeva Parayana, who have fully surrendered to the lotus feet of Lord Vasudeva Krishna, automatically achieve the results of mauna, silence, vrata, vows, and other such methods simply by discharging devotional service. In other words, these methods are not so powerful. If one takes to devotional service, all of them are very easily performed. Mauna, for example, does not mean that one should just stop speaking. The tongue is meant for speaking, although sometimes to make a big show, a person remains silent. There are many who observe silence some day in a week. Vaishnavas, however, do not observe such silence. Silence means not speaking foolishly. Speakers at assemblies, conferences, and meetings generally speak foolishly like toads. This is described by Srila Rupa Goswami as Vachovegam. One who wants to say something can show himself to be a big orator, but rather than go on speaking nonsense, better to remain silent. This method of silence, therefore, is recommended for persons very attached to speaking nonsense. One who is not a devotee must speak nonsensically, because he does not have the power to speak about the glories of Krishna. Thus, whatever he says is influenced by the illusory energy and is compared to the croaking of a frog. One who speaks about the glories of the Lord, however, has no need to be silent. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu recommends Kirtaniya Sadahari. One should go on chanting the glories of the Lord 24 hours a day. There is no question of becoming mauna or silent. The 10 processes for liberation or improvement on the path of liberation are not meant for the devotees. Kevalaya bhaktya, if one simply engages in devotional service to the Lord, all 10 methods of liberation are automatically observed. Prahlad Maharaj's proposal is that such processes may be recommended for the ajitendriya, but those who cannot conquer their senses. Devotees, however, have already conquered their senses. Sarvapati vanir muktam tapratvena nirmalam. A devotee is already freed from material contamination. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur therefore said, Dushtamano, tumi kisher Vaishnava, prishtajishtare tari, nirja nera ghare, tava harinam kebala kaitabo. There are many who like to chant the Hare Krishna mantra in a silent, solitary place. But if one is not interested in preaching, talking constantly to the non-devotees, the influence of the modes of nature is very difficult to surpass. Therefore, unless one is extremely advanced in Krishna consciousness, one should not imitate Haridas Thakur, who had no other business than chanting the holy name always, 24 hours a day. Prahlad Maharaj does not condemn such a process, he accepts it, but without active service to the Lord, simply by such methods, one generally cannot attain liberation. One cannot attain liberation simply by false pride. 47. Rupe ime sarasati tavaveda shishte bijankara vihinachanyara rupa kasya yukta samaksham upayantra vachangshante tvam yogena hahnimi ivadharushu nanyatasyat. By authorized Vedic knowledge, one can see that the forms of cause and effect in the cosmic manifestation belong to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. For the cosmic manifestation is his energy. Both cause and effect are nothing but energies of the Lord. Therefore, O my Lord, just as a wise man, by considering cause and effect, can see how fire pervades wood, those engaged in devotional service understand how you are both the cause and the effect. Purport. As described in previous verses, many so-called students of spiritual understanding follow the 10 different methods known as Mauna Vrata Shuta Tapo Dhyayana Swadharma Vakya Raho Japasamadaya. These may be very attractive, but by following such methods, one cannot actually understand the real cause and effect and the original cause of everything, Janmadhyasa Yata. The original source of everything is the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself, Sarvakarana Karanam. The original source of everything is Krishna, the Supreme Ruler. Ishvara Parama Krishna Sakchirananda Vigraha. He has his eternal spiritual form. Indeed, he is the root of everything. Bijam Mam Sarvabhutanam. Whatever manifestations exist, their cause is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This cannot be understood by so-called silence or by any other hodgepodge method. The Supreme Cause can be understood only by devotional service, as stated in Bhagavad Gita. Bhaktya mam abhijanati. Elsewhere in Srimad Bhagavatam 11:14-21, the Supreme Godhead personally says, Bhaktyaham ikaya kahya. One can understand the original cause of all causes, the Supreme Person, only by devotional service, not by show bottle exhibitionism. This is text number 48. Tvam vayuragniravanirvyarambumatra pranindriyani hridayam chidanugrahascha sarvam tvameva saguno vigunascha bhuman manyatvarasya mano vachasa niruktam. O Supreme Lord, you are actually the air, the earth, fire, sky, and water. You are the objects of sense perception, the life airs, the five senses, the mind, consciousness, and false ego. Indeed, you are everything, subtle and gross. The material elements and anything expressed, either by the words or by the mind, are nothing but you. Purport. This is the all-pervasive conception of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, which explains how he spreads everywhere and anywhere. Sarvam Kalavidam Brahma. Everything is Brahman, the Supreme Brahman, Krishna. Nothing exists without him. As the Lord says in Bhagavad Gita, Maya tatamidang sarvam jagadavyaktamurtina matstani sarva bhutani nachaham tesha vastitaha. I exist everywhere, and everything exists in me, yet I am not visible everywhere. The Lord can be visible only through devotional service. Tatra tishtami narada yatra gayanti madbhakta. The Supreme Lord stays only where his devotees chant his glories. 49. Naite gunana gunino mahadadayo ye sarve mana prapitaya sahadeva martya andyantavanta urugaya vidantihi tvam evam vimrishya sudiyo viramanti shabdat. Neither the three modes of material nature, Sattvagun, Rajagun, and Tamagun, nor the predominating deities controlling these three modes, nor the five gross elements, nor the minds, nor the demigods, nor the human beings can understand your lordship, for they are all subjected to birth and annihilation. Considering this, the spiritually advanced have taken to devotional service. Such wise men hardly bother with Vedic study. Instead, they engage themselves in practical devotional service. Purport. As stated in several places, Bhakti Mam Abhijanati, only by devotional service can the Supreme Lord be understood. The intelligent person, the devotee, does not bother much about the practices mentioned in text 46. Mauna vrata shuta tapo dhyayana sudharma. After understanding the Supreme Lord through devotional service, such devotees are no longer interested in studies of the Vedas. Indeed, this is confirmed in the Vedas also. The Vedas say, Kim arta vayam adhyeshyamahe kim arta vayam vakshyamahe. What is the use of studying so many Vedic literatures? What is the use of explaining them in different ways? Vayam vakshyamahe. No one needs to study any more Vedic literatures, nor does anyone need to describe them by philosophical speculation. Bhagavad Gita 2:52 says, I wonder what part of the Vedas that's from. It says the Vedas say, and it says, don't read the Vedas. Yada te mohakali lam buddhir vyati tarishati tadagantasi nirvedam shrotavyasya shutasya cha. When one understands the Supreme Personality of Godhead by executing devotional service, one ceases the practice of studying the Vedic literature. Elsewhere it is said, Aradito yadiharistapasatata kim. If one can understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead and engage in his service, there is no more need of severe austerities, penances, and so on. However, if after performing severe austerities and penances one does not understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead, such practices are useless. 50. Tat terhatama namastuti karma puja karma smritish charanayo shravanam katayam samsevaya tvai vineti sharangayakim bhaktim jana paramahamsa katau labheta. Therefore, O Supreme Lord, the best of all persons to whom prayers are offered, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you, because without rendering 6 kinds of devotional service unto you, offering prayers, dedicating all the results of activities, worshipping you, working on your behalf, always remembering your lotus feet and hearing about your glories, who can achieve that which is meant for the Paramahamsas? Purport. The Vedas enjoin Nayam Atma Pravachanena Labhyo Na Medhaya Na Bahuna Shutena. One cannot understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead simply by studying the Vedas and offering prayers. Only by the grace of the Supreme Lord can one understand Him. The process of understanding the Lord, therefore, is bhakti. Without bhakti, simply following the Vedic injunctions to understand the absolute truth will not be helpful at all. The process of bhakti is understood by the Paramahamsa, one who has accepted the essence of everything. The results of bhakti are reserved for such a Paramahamsa, and this stage cannot be obtained by any Vedic process other than devotional service. Other processes such as jnana and yoga can be successful only when mixed with bhakti. When we speak of jnana yoga, karma yoga, and dhyana yoga, the word yoga indicates bhakti. Bhakti yoga or buddhi yoga, executed with intelligence and full knowledge, is the only successful method for going back home, back to Godhead. If one wants to be liberated from the pangs of material existence, he should take to devotional service for quick attainment of this goal. When we speak of jnana yoga, karma yoga, and dhyana yoga, the word indicates bhakti.
The great sage Narada said, 51. 51.
Oh, there it is. We just have 1 minute for reflections.
Oh, I had a reflection.
Reflections. Reflect. Go ahead.
I have a reflection. I liked what it said
Since
about.
they're in vogue.
Excuse me?
Reflections are in vogue now.
Oh.
Wait tomorrow's Saturday class. He said, I'll take questions or reflections since they seem to be in vogue now.
Yeah, I was thinking about Prahlad Maharaj and how he's simultaneously happy and not happy. That really struck me, because materialistic persons, they can't accommodate opposites as being both true at the same time. And therefore, you can't understand the activities of a pure devotee like Prahlad Maharaj. But it was so clear, Prabhupada said he's happy because for himself, he can chant Hare Krishna and he's completely happy. But when he sees others suffering, he feels unhappy at the same time.
I like how Srila Prabhupada so emphatically stressed preaching again and again in the purpose.
Yes.
And even up to the point where he said the 2 verses back, if one does not speak to non-devotees, he will be influenced by the material modes. The non-devotees will be influenced by the material nature. Eventually. Yes, preaching, speaking about Krishna.
Yeah, I just was thinking that it's interesting to me that Prahlada has these sentiments because this was a much earlier yuga, and he's naming these people who are going off to the mountains to meditate and so forth, and saying that may not be so effective as preaching. But that was a long time ago when people, a lot of people did go off to the Himalayas and things like that. But still, even then, it was in vogue. He's still thinking that it's better to preach.
It's up to you, right?
It's up to you.
Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, I read something, he was speaking what is impressing me that is Prabhupada Maharaj is in such a compact and extremely straightforward way. He's offering a paradigm shift which is so radical, and he's not giving some philosophical deep philosophy, but he's speaking on few levels. Like he speaks the cause effect, how God is everything, but also he goes to the very the very simple psychology, and he explains exactly what is this paradigm shift. And it's so in very few places we see this kind of compact paradigm shift explained in such a clear way. It's literally like bomb. It's extremely impressive, and it's also a very good ground for preaching for us. And we can see this chopping preaching of Prabhupada where it comes from. Like in our old Sampradaya, it's there Prabhupada Maharaj and Narada Muni and everybody. It's not new thing. But of course, Narada Muni, sometimes he's giving allegorical stories and all kinds of things, always finding a way. But sometimes he's really...
What is that paradigm shift?
From sense gratification, he's explaining how being absorbed in sense gratification is really like animal's business, and turning everything so that actually the same way we serve our body and our co-wives, like the mind and the senses, the same way we should serve the master of the senses, the Krishna, who is the source of everything and the soul of the soul and the soul of the Sarvatma of everything, which we heard.
Like the Kala Shakti, how it's described as one of the Lord's energies, but the Lord's not affected by it, and how it's imperceptibly just taking away our life.
I really like that point. Prahlad Maharaj was going into this topic of that we have to preach, and it reminded me of that thing that you said, Prabhu, about how it's not easy even for the pure devotees to go out and preach to the conditioned souls, because there's such an emotional toll. But Prahlad Maharaj is he's willing to do that, the elevated souls are willing to go through that for saving, out of compassion.
Correct. That's my point. Correct.
Where Prabhupada said that illicit sex life is for fools, and for the Dhira that they don't engage in that. That was very nice. Right before he broke, it was very good. I needed to hear that.
Tapasya is celibacy. That's the foundation of the whole thing.
The great sage, this is text 51. We're now finished with the prayers of Prahlad Maharaj. Now we're going back to the narration. Narada Muni is speaking to Yudhishthira Maharaj, this whole story. The great saint Narada said, "Thus Lord Nrsingadev was pacified by the devotee Prahlad Maharaj with prayers offered from the transcendental platform. The Lord gave up his anger, and being very kind to Prahlad, who was offering prostrated obeisances, he spoke as follows." Purport. The word nirguna is important. The Mayavadi philosophers accept the absolute truth as nirguna or nirakara. The word nirguna refers to one who possesses no material qualities. The Lord, being full of spiritual qualities, gave up all his anger and spoke to Prahlad. Text 52. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "My dear Prahlad, most gentle one, best of the family of the Asuras, all good fortune unto you. I am very much pleased with you. It is my pastime to fulfill the desires of all living beings, and therefore you may ask from me any benediction you desire to be fulfilled." Purport. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is known as Bhaktavatsala, the Supreme Personality who is very much affectionate to his devotees. It is not very extraordinary that the Lord offered his devotee all benedictions. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said in effect, "I fulfill the desires of everyone. Since you are my devotee, whatever you want for yourself will naturally be given. But if you pray for anyone else, that prayer will also be fulfilled." Thus, if we approach the Supreme Lord or his devotee, or if we are blessed by a devotee, naturally we will automatically achieve the benedictions of the Supreme Lord. Yasya prasadad bhagavat prasadak. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that if one pleases the Vaishnava spiritual master, all of one's desires will be fulfilled. Text 53. My dear Prahlad, may you live a long time. One cannot appreciate or understand me without pleasing me, but one who has seen or pleased me has nothing more for which to lament for his own satisfaction. Can I read that again? My dear Prahlad, may you live a long time. One cannot appreciate or understand me without pleasing me, but one who has seen or pleased me has nothing more for which to lament for his own satisfaction. Purport. One cannot be happy under any circumstances unless one pleases the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But one who has learned how to please the Supreme Lord need no longer lament for his material condition. 54. My dear Prahlad, you are very fortunate. Please know from me that those who are very wise and highly elevated try to please me in all different modes of mellows, for I am the only person who can fulfill all the desires of everyone. Purport. The word dhirak sarvabhavina do not mean in whichever way you like. Bhava is the preliminary condition of love of Godhead. Atasaktishtato bhavas tatak premabhyadanchiti sadhakana mayam premna pradur bhave bhavet kramaha. The bhava stage is the final division before one reaches love of Godhead. The word sarvabhava means that one can love the Supreme Personality of Godhead in different transcendental modes of mellows, beginning with Dasya, Sakya, Vatsalya, and Madhurya. In the Shanta stage, one is on the border of loving service to the Lord. Pure love of Godhead begins from Dasya and develops to Sakya, Vatsalya, and then Madhurya. Still, in any one of these five mellows, one can render loving service to the Supreme Lord. Since our main business is to love the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one can render service from any of the above-mentioned platforms of love. Text 55. Narada Muni said, Prahlad Maharaj was the best person in the family of Asuras. Narada Muni said, Prahlad Maharaj was the best person in the family of Asuras. Prahlad Maharaj said, now I'm getting all confused. Narada Muni said, Prahlad Maharaj was the best person in the family of Asuras who always aspire for material happiness. Nonetheless, although allured by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who offered him all benedictions for material happiness, because of his unalloyed Krishna consciousness, he did not want to take any material benefit for sense gratification. Purport. Pure devotees like Prahlad Maharaj and Dhruva Maharaj do not aspire for any material benefit at any stage of devotional service. When the Lord was present before Dhruva Maharaj, Dhruva did not want to take any material benefit from the Lord. Swamin kritar tosmi varam najache. As a pure devotee, he could not ask the Lord for any material benefit. In this regard, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu instructed us, Nadanam najanam nasundarim kavitam va jagadisha kamaye mama janmani janmadishware bhavatad bhaktir rahaitu kitvaye. O my Lord Jagadish, I do not pray for benedictions by which to achieve material wealth, popularity, or beauty. My only desire is to serve you. Kindly engage me in the service of the servant of your servant. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports to the 7th canto, 9th chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Prahlad pacifies his Lord Nrsingadev with prayers.
Over to you, sir. Thank you, Brinkley. Continuing with the 7th canto, 10th chapter, Prahlad, the best among exalted devotees. Text number 1. The saint Narada Muni continued, although Prahlad Maharaj was only a boy, when he heard the benedictions offered by Lord Nrsingadev, he considered them impediments on the path of devotional service. Thus he smiled very mildly and spoke as follows. Purport. Material achievements are not the ultimate goal of devotional service. The ultimate goal of devotional service is love of Godhead. Therefore, although Prahlad Maharaj, Dhruva Maharaj, Ambarish Maharaj, Yudhishthira Maharaj, and many devotee kings were materially very opulent, they accepted their material opulence in the service of the Lord, not for their personal sense gratification. Of course, possessing material opulence is always fearful, because under the influence of material opulence, one may be misdirected from devotional service. Nonetheless, a pure devotee, anya abhilashita shunyam, is never misdirected by material opulence. On the contrary, whatever he possesses, he engages 100% in the service of the Lord. When one is allured by material possessions, they are considered to be given by Maya. But when one uses material possessions fully for service, they are considered God's gifts, or facilities offered by Krishna for enhancing one's devotional service. 2. Prahlad Maharaj said, My dear Lord, O Supreme Personality of Godhead, because I was born in an atheistic family, I am naturally attached to material enjoyment. Therefore, kindly do not tempt me with these illusions. I am very much afraid of material conditions, and I desire to be liberated from materialistic life. It is for this reason that I have taken shelter of your lotus feet. Purport. Materialistic life means attachment to the body and everything in relationship to the body. This attachment is based on lusty desires for sense gratification, specifically sexual enjoyment. When When one is too attached to material enjoyment, he is bereft of all knowledge. Hritajnana. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, those who are attached to material enjoyment are mostly inclined to worship the demigods to procure various material opulences. They are especially attached to worship the goddess Durga and Lord Shiva, because this transcendental couple can offer their devotees all material opulence. Prahlad Maharaj, however, was detached from all material enjoyment. He therefore took shelter of the lotus feet of Lord Nrsingadev, and not the feet of any demigod. It is to be understood that if one really wants release from this material world, from the threefold miseries, and from Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadhi, birth, death, old age, and disease, one must take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, for without the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one cannot get release from materialistic life. Atheistic men are very much attached to material enjoyment. Therefore, if they get some opportunity to achieve more and more material enjoyment, take it. Although born of a materialistic father, because he was a devotee, he had no material desires. Anya abhilashita shunyam. Text 3. O my worshipable Lord, because of the seed of lusty desires, which is the root. O my worshipable Lord, because the seed of lusty desires, which is the root cause of material existence, is within the core of everyone's heart, you have sent me to this material world to exhibit the symptoms of a pure devotee. Purport. Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu has given considerable discussion about Nitya Siddha and Sadhana Siddha devotees. Nitya Siddha devotees come from Vaikuntha to this material world to teach, by their personal example, how to become a devotee. The living entities in the material world can take lessons from such Nitya Siddha devotees, and thus become inclined to return home back to Godhead. A Nitya Siddha devotee comes from Vaikuntha upon the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and shows, by his example, how to become a pure devotee. Anyabhilashita shunyam. In spite of coming to this material world, the Nitya Siddha devotee is never attached by the allurements of material enjoyment. In spite of coming to this material world, the Nitya Siddha devotee is never attracted by the allurements of material enjoyment. A perfect example is Prahlad Maharaj, who was a Nitya Siddha, a Mahabhagavata devotee. Although Prahlad was born in the family of Hiranyakashipu, an atheist, he was never attached to any kind of materialistic enjoyment. Desiring to exhibit the symptoms of a pure devotee, the Lord tried to induce Prahlad Maharaj to take material benedictions, but Prahlad Maharaj did not accept them. On the contrary, by his personal example, he showed the symptoms of a pure devotee. In other words, the Lord himself has no desire to send his pure devotee to this material world, nor does the devotee have any material purpose in coming. When the Lord himself appears as an incarnation within this material world, he is not allured by the material atmosphere, and he has nothing to do with material activity. Yet by his example, he teaches the common man how to become a devotee. Similarly, a devotee who comes here in accordance with the order of the Supreme Lord shows by his behavior, by his personal behavior, how to become a pure devotee. A pure devotee, therefore, is a practical example for all living entities, including Lord Brahma. Text 4. Otherwise, O my Lord, O Supreme Instructor of the entire world, you are so kind to your devotee that you could not induce him to do something unbeneficial for him. On the other hand, one who desires some material benefit in exchange for devotional service cannot be your pure devotee. Indeed, he is no better than a merchant who wants profit in exchange for service. Purport. It is sometimes found that one comes to a devotee or a temple of the Lord just to get some material benefit. Such a person is described here as a mercantile man. Bhagavad Gita speaks of arto jignasur artarti. The word arta refers to one who is physically distressed, and artarti refers to one in need of money. Such persons are forced to approach the Supreme Personality of Godhead for mitigation of their distress or to get some money by the benediction of the Lord. They have been described as sukriti, pious, because in their distress or need for money, they have approached the Supreme Lord. Unless one is pious, one cannot approach the Supreme Personality of Godhead. However, although a pious man may receive some material benefit, one who is concerned with material benefits cannot be a pure devotee. When a pure devotee receives material opulences, this is not because of his pious activity, but for the service of the Lord. When one engages in devotional service, one is automatically pious. Therefore, a pure devotee is anyabhilashita shunyam. He has no desire for material profit, nor does the Lord induce him to try to profit materially. When a devotee needs something, the Supreme Personality of Godhead supplies it. Yogakshemam bahamyaham. Sometimes materialists go to a temple to offer flowers and fruit to the Lord because they have learned from Bhagavad Gita that if a devotee offers some flowers and fruits, the Lord accepts them. In Bhagavad Gita 9:26, the Lord says, Patram pushpam palam to yam yome bhaktyat prayachati taraham bhakti bharitam ashnami pariyatat manaha. If one offers me with love and devotion a leaf, a flower, fruit, or water, I will accept it. Thus a man with a mercantile mentality thinks that if he can get some material benefit, like a large amount of money, simply by offering a little fruit and flower, this is a good business. Such persons are not accepted as pure devotees. Because their desires are not purified, they are still mercantile men, even though they go to temples to make a show of being devotees. Sarvapati vinir muktam tapratin nirmalam. Only when one is fully freed from the material desires only when one is fully freed from material desires can one be purified. And only in that purified state can one serve the Lord. Rishikena, Rishikesha, Sevanam Bhakti Ruchate. This is the pure devotional platform. 5. A servant who desires material profits from his master is certainly not a qualified servant or pure devotee. Similarly, a master who bestows... Well, what did she hear that thought I called her? A servant who bestows material, who desires material profits. Text 5. A servant who desires material profits. A servant who desires material profits from his master is certainly not a... Certainly. It must have the combination of syllables that says Siri. A servant who desires. Right? A servant who desires. A servant who desires material profits. Okay. A servant who desires material profits from his master is certainly not a qualified servant or pure devotee. Similarly, a master who bestows benedictions upon his servant because of a desire to maintain a prestigious position as a master is also not a pure master. Purport. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, Siri, Kamaistaisteri jnana prapadyante nyadevata. Those whose minds are distorted by material desires surrender unto demigods. A demigod cannot become master, for the real master is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The demigods, to keep their prestigious positions, bestow upon their worshippers whatever benedictions the worshippers want. For example, once it was found that an asura took a benediction from Lord Shiva, by which the asura would be able to kill someone simply by placing his hands on that person's head. Such benedictions are possible to receive from the demigods. If one worships the Supreme Personality of Godhead, however, the Lord will never offer him such condemned benedictions. On the contrary, it is said in the Bhagavatam 10:88:8, Yasyahamana grindami harishe tadhanam shanai. If one is too materialistic but at the same time wants to be a servant of the Supreme Lord, the Lord, because of his supreme compassion for the devotee, takes away all his material opulences and obliges him to be a pure devotee of the Lord. Prahlad Maharaj distinguishes between the pure devotee and the pure master. The Lord is the pure master, the supreme master, whereas an unalloyed devotee with no material motives is the pure servant. One who has materialistic motivations cannot become a servant and one who unnecessarily bestows benedictions upon his servant to keep his own prestigious position is not a real master. Take a couple of reflections. Yes, Prabhu?
Hare Krishna. So, I have two. That's okay.
Okay. Because you've been so quiet over there for so long.
So
you saved him up.
Going back to the previous chapter, Maharaj read this verse twice, and then it was just dawning on me just how Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Manvana Bhavamatmakto, just worship me. And then I was understanding how this is how we'll be able to understand and actually see Krishna. So that's why when people come up and they say, I don't believe in God, why don't you just do some service for him, and then you'll see, you'll believe in him. You'll understand that he's real. And Prabhupada would ask one time in the videos, following Srila Prabhupada, he said, how do you know Krishna is real? And then one devotee finally said the answer, because I can feel him. So I was just being reminded of that when doing service to Krishna.
Wait, Maharaj said in the class this morning about people say, can you show me God? And he said, can you show me time? Second one?
And then the second one was, we just quoted this verse in the purport, 1088.8. And I had one experience on book distribution where this gentleman came up and he was saying, my sister took my money. He was like down on himself. And I pulled up this verse and I showed it to him. And he's like, oh my God. So God actually likes me. He's taking all my money away. So he took the verse and he posted it on his Facebook, and he actually took a book also. And then when he comes by now, the Harinam, he says, thank you for showing me that verse. It really changed my life.
Others, baby took the caddy, left me the mule to ride. What else? Yes.
Verse, last one just discussed, covered about how people go to the temple to do business with God.
Gotta hold that close.
People go to worship God, and like as merchants, they want to offer a few little things or put a little donation in the box and expect so much back from God, like a merchant.
Yeah.
The last statement struck me that, if a master bestows benediction upon his servants to keep his own prestigious position, he's not a real master. In other words, it's not the master's duty to keep himself in a position where everybody treats him like a master so that he can be prestigious.
Not very good. Better get it fixed. Two minutes.
Nrsingadev said, it is my pastime to fulfill the desires of the living entities. And I remember the verse also in one prayers of Shani in a Puranic text, where he says the same thing. It's my pastimes to fulfill the desires of the devotees. I just found it interesting how Nrsimhadev says that.
Well, especially he wants to fulfill the desires of his devotees, but the devotees won't accept anything. And so if another person serves that devotee, is able to render service, then Krishna becomes most pleased. That's why it's best to be the servant of the servant, the pure devotee, because then you're fulfilling what Krishna actually wants to do, but the devotee, that particular devotee, won't accept it from Krishna. But if he takes it from you, Krishna gives special mercy. Last one? Yeah, Mukharavind. Mukharavind back in the control room. He did his apprenticeship yesterday, and now he's taken over the whole show. Haribol.
Well, one reflection and one question I have. Reflection is that I think in one of the verses it read that one who knows how to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead can remain happy in all the condition. It was mentioned, and I was just seeing that I am living with Gopal Prabhu, and then he just morning wakes up and offer his Saligram Puja. I see that it's so satisfaction, and he knows that how to be happy because he knows how to serve Krishna with attachment. So
Yeah, I told him when I saw him.
yeah.
No, the other Gopal, right? You don't have shalagrams, right? Okay. He was busted. He was busted. I told Gopal when I saw him yesterday, I said, "You're living the," or maybe it was this morning, I said, "You're living the life."
Yeah.
You know, he sent me a picture from the Radha Govinda Mangal Artik up in Jaipur, and then back and forth to Vrindavan. What a blessed life one to live. He's worship the deity, bring Mahaprasadam here and there, go to this temple, that temple. It's very auspicious.
And the question is that the last verse that is mentioned that a master should not just bestow benediction. So
Material benediction, really.
okay. Because I saw many times people come to you and it's a personal question, and whenever they ask you, you pray for them. So what is your inner consciousness when you pray for them? I've seen many times they, for various reasons they comes. It may be sometimes seems maybe job, it maybe seems something that they are. So
Swamiji, give me blessings. Blessing is the instruction. Chant Hare Krishna. Stop engaging in sense gratification.
Well, many of the times I'm thinking that if they have what they need, then they can feel satisfied and productive. And so, especially like say in Silicon Valley, so many of the devotees there are so advanced and pure devotees. Sometimes people come and say, "What about this? What about that?" The reason they're in anxiety about their job or whatever is because they don't want to be disturbed in their service, really. And so, when I say something like, pray to Srila Prabhupada and Lord Chaitanya that you get a job where you work half as much and get twice as much money, then I'm thinking, they can do more service, and that's what they're thinking too. So I think that those are. We're building our group.
We just heard that, actually. It was one of the purports that if someone gets a material benediction or some material facility and uses it for sense gratification, that's sent by Maya. And if one uses it in Krishna's service, that's given to him by Krishna, gift by Krishna.
Thank you so much.
Okay. And you had one last point?
Like when Mahaprabhu, like that Brahmana who wasn't able to read Bhagavad Gita, but he was crying because he was visualizing Krishna and Arjuna, how Krishna is becoming Parthasarati, and like just observing how Prada Maharaj is having this dialogue with Narasimhadev. It's very so sweet. They talk about Narasimhadev is saying some things and Prada Maharaj is responding, and back and forth, and they have this sweet time together. It's super sweet to meditate on this, even without understanding what they talk about. It just seeing the whole thing is very sweet.
Very sweet. Thank you. We'll end on that sweet note. Go Premanande Nittai Gaura Haribo 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 Nittai Gaura Haribo Nittai Gaura Haribo Haribo Nittai Gaura Haribo. Vanchakalpatarusha Kripasnabhevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namo. We'll see you all back here at 3:29. Hare Krishna.